Most seventh-round draft picks have a hard time even making their team, and almost none of them ever become team captains, and absolutely none of them become team captains 5 times and play every single snap on offense on 2 record-breaking seasons when it comes to offensive output, and that's what Zack Strief did as an offensive lineman under Sean Payton when he was with the New Orleans Saints. But the transformations and the amazing stuff he did in New Orleans pales in comparison to what he did and transformed your Broncos offensive line into last season. In this video, we're predicting what is he going to do this next season with this offensive line based on what he has done over these past 2 seasons. If you're new to the channel, I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan named Ben, and it helps me and the YouTube algorithm out a ton if you like the Broncos, if you would like and subscribe. So we don't need to relive the past that much, but you know Russell Wilson's last year in Denver, our offensive line was a turnstile. Guys were getting through all of the time, and Russell Wilson certainly shoulders some of the blame for holding the ball too long, but he was sacked more than any other quarterback in the entire NFL. 63 times in a season. Like, that is an absolute wild number. Like, we know our defensive line and our defense in general was incredible. If we had 63 sacks, oh wait, we almost did. But we go from that to now we're the second best offensive line in all of football in just a few years with the exact same group of personnel, minus Lloyd Cushenberry, who was a really highly regarded center. So we regressed at one position, yet somehow we became a top 3 unit in the entire NFL. How was that even possible? Well, a lot of people want to point all of the fingers at Russell Wilson and say our offensive line was only bad because of him, but that is simply not the case. I want to throw Russell Wilson under the bus as much as anyone else, but the fact of the matter is that our offensive line lost pressures 27% of the time. So you have 100 rushing snaps and you let guys through 27% of the time. It's just unacceptable. It actually was second worst in the NFL. So you add that with the fact that Russell Wilson held the ball too long. Even when they didn't have a pressure, he held it and created his own pressure. And so he was partially to blame, but even without him, any quarterback would have really struggled with our offensive line in 2022. So you go from that to this year with the exact same group of personnel. We are now the best when it comes to giving a quarterback time to throw, that our quarterbacks in general had 2.7 seconds in the pocket, which is an eternity in the NFL. Like, imagine trying to keep Myles Garrett from getting somewhere and just like, hey, you keep him there for 2.7 seconds. Like, I would just fall on the ground and whimper in a ball and cry. But that is exactly what our offensive line did. Field Yates points out that our offensive line was the first ranked when it comes to winning in their pass block and the first ranked when it came to winning in their rushing block. And we saw that the rest of the NFL recognized what we did in giving some Pro Bowl mentions to some of our guys. And then you have Quinn Meinerz, a guy out of University Whitewater, a small school in Wisconsin no one has ever heard of. He makes the All-Pro, meaning he's the best guard in all of football. This only happens because Zack Strief is wildly different and an incredible coach. You see that rewarded in the promotion that he got this offseason, which we're going to talk about in just a second. But I think one of the best points to just prove how good Zack Strief is let's take a look at Lloyd Cushenberry. He was our center, and in our horrible year as an offensive line, you still see that he graded out pretty good. He gushed about Zack Strief and how much he loved working with him. In fact, he came out and said, hey, Zack Strief, I give him a ton of credit for my development and the fact that I got this major deal. So in his last year with the Denver Broncos, he was the 5th best center in the entire game of football when it comes to his pass block, and then in his run block, he was the 15th best center. Overall, he was the 12th best center in football, and the Broncos couldn't afford him because we were paying the Russell Wilson dead cap money. So we let him walk. If he truly was that good and was that elite, he would have very similar numbers, but he goes to the Tennessee Titans and he literally falls off of a cliff. You see him drop to the 47th best pass protector and the 48th best center when it comes to run block. So you go from basically number 12 overall to number 49 overall, and the only difference is you don't have Zack Strief as your coach lining you up and helping you figure out how to progress at that position. So that right there is like proof in and of itself that Zack Strief is different and gets amazing results out of his players. We see Garett Bolles come out and like point out why he loves working with Zack Strief and loves coming to work every day. Part of the reason that he took a hometown discount when he just re-signed was because he loves playing with Zack Strief, and said that he understands the game in a new way and he knows exactly how to play in a Sean Payton system, because guess what? He did it, and as a 7th rounder, he was a 5-time captain for a Drew Brees-led, Sean Payton-led New Orleans Saints team, and he said, this offense is amazing because of Zack Strief, and you see the transformation happen. Like, I remember, I still find myself, because of PTSD, after a huge play, just scanning my TV, looking for that flag and hearing holding number 72 on the play. But we know that that didn't happen last year, and we can kind of forget that because Zach Strief has helped Garett Bolles not hold, and he actually had his career best holding rates, even though he's getting older each year and probably a little bit slower in his old age, and yet he had his best year of his entire career when it comes to holding, and he gives Zack Strief all the credit. You have McGlinchey come out and just say, like, hey, it's really different to be coached by a guy who isn't just like hypothetically telling you what to do, but actually knows what it's like to be in your exact shoes. Like, he knows what it's like when you are lining up against another team's best player and you're expected to keep Bo Nix clean for 3.7 seconds or whatever it is. He understands it in a way and gets the most out of his players. You see swing tackle Matt Pert, who flamed out and has been in a couple different franchises, came out and said, Zack Strief broke me down to my very basics and has rebuilt me, and I'm feeling more confident than I've ever felt before. Zack Strief knows exactly how to coach the offensive line because he has done it himself and is an excellent communicator to these young men. And you see them running through walls for him and just absolutely transforming what the NFL expects out of this Broncos team. We went from an expected win total last season. They expected us to win 5 games. This season, they're expecting us to win 10 games. And so you just see it is Zack Strief and his ability to coach this offensive line that has made all of the difference. You just see that because Sean Payton took a gamble on him and drafted him in the 7th round and gave him that chance, he then is doing that exact same thing for your Denver Broncos. He said when Sean Payton called, he had a pretty good gig, was living in New Orleans, which is where he was, for all those years, and his family was there. He was the radio guy for the New Orleans Saints, and it's a lot to move your family across the country and go from the South to Denver, Colorado. That's a big transition. He said, when Sean calls, you answer because Sean Payton is my guy. And that's a great testament to Sean Payton as a elite recruiter, because A people hire A people and B people hire C people. Like that is just a crucial aspect of being a leader, right? That A leaders recruit other A leaders, and that's exactly what Sean Payton has done. And in order to keep him, because of what he's been able to get out of this offensive line, the Denver Broncos actually made him an assistant head coach as well. And so now we've seen the Broncos, because we have the richest owner in sports, able to give that carrot out there to keep incredible talent here with your Broncos. And I think that's a great thing. And the NFL is responding and saying, like, watch out for these Denver Broncos. So we're seeing Pro Football Sports Network said that we have the best offensive line in football, gave us a 99.5. Because we're returning all of our starters from last year, which is a really, really rare thing. Field Yates came out on ESPN, said the same thing. So did Mina Kimes. I love Sharp Football Analysis. They're out of Houston. He's on 850KOA quite a bit. He came out and said the Broncos have the second best offensive line in football. Fantasy Pros came out and said we have the second best offensive line in football. This is led by a former NFL scout himself. And so this is shaping up to be incredible. I think this year, Sean Payton really talked about that the Broncos offensive line actually adequately blocked for the rush last year, and that truly it was the running backs who left some meat on the bone, was the way he said it. So I expect our rushing game to be where you see the biggest difference this year, because I think with J.K. Dobbins staying healthy, with R.J. Harvey popping like we expect him to, and Jaleel being able to be that change of pace back, and then Audric Estime being able to be that massive back who just you don't want to tackle by the 4th quarter. I think we are going to just have an incredible year and a resurgence on how we run the ball this year. Mike McGlinchey talked about how different this offensive line is than anyone he's ever played with. He even went so far as to say that this is the rarest thing he's ever experienced in his entire career, to be coming back with the exact same group that you were with last year, and then to have a room full of young and hungry guys who are ready to step up. I think the other underrated thing that as training camp starts in just a few weeks, that we don't just have 5 great starters. That room is loaded to bear, knowing that all of them are being coached by a former Sean Payton offensive lineman himself. So I think Frank Crum, who had the fastest 40 time of any left tackle, is waiting in the wings for when Garett Bolles is ready to leave. Like, you see him courtside with Bo Nix at Nuggets games and Avalanche games. Clay Webb was exonerated of the federal charge that was coming against him, and if that wasn't there, he probably would have been a 3rd round draft pick, and we were able to get him as an undrafted guy. And then Xavier Truss as well, a Georgia lineman who I'm extremely high on. So I think the future is crazy bright for next year and crazy bright from now on, because we got Zack Strief waiting in the wings and is a coach, and he is Sean's guy, and he is here for the considerable future. So that's a fantastic thing. So we probably only have time for one or two more of these in-depth looks at some of our coach or front office staff. I was thinking about doing a deep dive into Bo Landry. Why have we been able to keep our players healthy? Who else you want me to dive into? These take a little bit more time than just reacting to the news, but before training camp, it has been an absolute blast. And Broncos country, we've got a ton to believe in. I thought a football might be better.